Democracy is of the people, by the people, for the people. It is only when we uphold democracy at its fullest and we can see it and see it what the people want, can we have a fully functioning society where people are satisfied, where people do and get what they really deserve. A few things set up inside of government. The first being that the motion fiats that it is whether or not a referendum sort of system is more preferable than a court and judicial sort of system. Therefore, there should be no argument on the feasibility of it. Secondly, that is the main focus should be on the effectiveness of enforcement of civil rights because that is what the metric of this debate should be about. Thirdly, is that we concede that in worst case of scenario, there will be a slight amount of injustice in the sense that if the minority might not get what they necessarily want, but we believe that number one, this is very highly improbable. And number two, at the end of the day, they will slowly get what they want. And number three, even at the worst case of scenario, we think that it is fine to trade off for the greater good, right? The first argumentation for side of government is that referendums enable quick advancements for civil rights. Two things to set up. The first being that civil rights is an urgent matter. When we talk about civil rights, this looks like rights of workers, rights of workers, rights of like foreign rights of like legal migrants coming into the country, the rights of children who are stateless, for example, who live on the outskirts of of your nations. All of the urgent rights that actually heavily impact people's lives in the sense of they impact how they get jobs, they impact in how much like welfare they get. All of these things that impact a lot of people. Secondly, the referendums are absolutely easy to set up. Because referendum in and of itself is a direct democratic sort of system in which people gather around, they have some sort of discussion, they have a simple vote, or if the vote has a simple majority, it goes. Very, very simple. And the impact of it is two. The impact of having a referendum, especially in comparison to a judicial and court proceeding, is that you can instantly enforce law and actually help those who need it. What we mean by this is that in comparison to court proceedings that take an especially substantial amount of time, it can take years and years. A referendum is simple. You recognize an issue. You can recognize the issue. You gather people around. You garner their support, and once they have a simple majority, it goes. Once they have a simple majority, more and more like policies and more and more policies that actually support the civil rights, the legality of civil rights can actually be pursued on. To weigh this down, we provide to this argument an easily accessible and convenient solution in which people can actually do things fastly. People recognize a solution and not try to do things like 5 years in the future. The moment we recognize an issue and recognize a problem, we address it straight away. Opposition, in comparison, has to prove why it is preferable to go through years of proceedings when people want change now, when people are suffering now, and people need the money, the welfare, the healthcare, all of these civil rights that are not actually being protected and given duly to them and duly to them right now. The second argument, however, is that the people actually know what civil rights they need and they know the priority of civil rights that they need. Two premises. The first being that people who form the majority of referendums are usually middle class people and they are the people that form the bulk of society. Therefore, they know what being in a society looks like. They know how it feels like to go on a day by day basis, buying stuff, buying groceries, getting going through like public healthcare, all of these things. And secondly, however, is that members of judiciary, meaning your magistrates, meaning your lawyers, meaning people who basically manage your courts. These people are usually isolated or isolated and privileged. Isolated in the sense that judges aren't necessarily allowed to like mingle around society because it can create a sort of biasness. Whilst this is actually a very good thing on its own in regards to courts, when it comes to civil rights matters that involve daily to day basis, it is important that you have a person who is it is important to have a person who is understanding and can actually relate to the issue on a personal level. All of In addition to that, these people are usually heavily privileged and they do not actually feel the impact of civil rights being taken away from them, because they enforce law based on logic and interpretation, and they do not do it on a personal level. And this is something that's only exclusive on side of government, in which people who actually feel the civil rights and actually want the civil rights actually advocate for them. The impact for this is that is that the this argument provides you that by using referendums we provide what society needs, in the sense that what society, in the sense that we can the society unanimously agrees that, for example, we believe that we should talk more about the right to practice religion freely, in a way that isn't condemning, in a way that isn't that is safe, in a way that has security. And secondly, you can end the suffering of multiple people who are actually being affected by these civil rights, who are not are actually not enforced. Now, to weigh this down, this argument establishes how referendums are what society needs to progress. What society is an important tool for society to actually garner the maximum amount of support and the minimum amount of injustice and inconvenience in life. And opposition has to prove exactly how progress is much viable at the hands of the judiciary, in which the involvement with society is very much limited. Of course, these people also buy your groceries and all that, but we don't believe that it is at a same degree as the normal layman, as the average man who lives a day-to-day basis, who is not necessarily privileged and has to interact with society deeply for him or her to actually survive. In conclusion, provide to you two things. Number one, that referendums are very convenient, and number two, how the court system, how people actually know how people actually know what is the top priority of what they want. And even at the worst case scenario, so let's say a certain minority is not heard enough, we believe that number one, I mean, we believe in number one, people right now are more progressive, are much more progressive than they ever have been. Therefore, we believe that it is highly probable that all of these things will actually come into the spotlight and people will talk about it. And secondly, even if it doesn't, the minority of people actually can actually like enjoy the civil rights that the majority actually enjoy. Because when we talk about civil rights, it is something universal and not biased to a certain group or race. Thank you.